insane.
For the love I'd fallen on in the swampy August dawn. What a mischief you would bring, young darling. When the onus is not all your own, when you're up for it before you've grown.
I'm really sorry for everything being late this week. I'm getting back into school this upcoming Monday, so I've been pretty swamped with trying to get everything together.
The whole indie rock thing is something of a mystery to me. I made an attempt a few years back to get further into indie rock, spending some time with Dinosaur Jr., Vampire Weekend, Arcade Fire, Wilco, The Decemberists, a few others. It just seemed to me at the time that many folks that I considered to be intelligent were gravitating towards this kind of music. And so I wanted to see what I could find. The advent of NPR's Tiny Desk concert series, and probably the All Songs Considered podcast, those might have had something to do with it as well. I remember really enjoying some of what I heard, but not the plurality of it. Mostly it all fell out of the speakers and onto the floor like a little shy puddle. But I do remember hearing influences I hadn't expected, like Richard and Linda Thompson and Nick Drake. If I had to characterize the sounds of the albums I heard, I would say that the songs were about painting expressionistically with instrumentation, finding new ways to orchestrate parts. Of course, now, indie rock has been around for long enough that the musisphere, the inherited vocabulary connected with certain instruments, has been updated to include some of the innovations that have been made by indie rock artists in the past 20 years. Heavy fuzz and close intervals on guitars, dense ghost note heavy drum grooves, violas and French horns and backing arrangements, sparse chords on a slightly out of tune piano. I mean, if you're a young musician coming up today, these things are just part of the landscape now, and they're finding their way into everything from acid jazz to R&B to shoegaze. But what I've been able to learn, a lot of these sounds originated in the indie rock of 15 or 20 years ago. Honestly, I don't have any idea what to expect from Bon Iver. On one hand, they're from the upper Midwest, so maybe I'm thinking Violent Femmes, Husker Du, that kind of influence. On the other hand, since Bon Iver means good winter in French, I'm thinking it might be a more introspective thing, right? Quieter? Death Cab for Cutie? That kind of thing? Man, I am so out of my depth on this indie rock stuff. Look, if I'm completely honest, the main reason I've added Bon Iver is FOMO. Truth be told, I never really understood the appeal of a lot of this stuff. Honestly, really, I think the main thing that indie rock has going for it and why it has survived to the way it is today is because they seem to appeal to a select set of people. Specifically, they appeal to people that have the ability to make me think that I should be listening to more indie rock. The news is next.
From the fawn forever gone in the towers of your honeycomb.
But with that being said, let's get into my thoughts. I thought, first of all, that the transition from Perth into Minnesota, Wisconsin was really, really smart. And I really enjoyed it. You know, Bon Iver, it's not music I would typically go towards. You know, normally I need things with a little bit of, you know, grit, a little something to pull it down. You know, I like things based in rock. However, I really liked his sound. He had this certain loftiness and airiness to his music that's very unique to him, I think.
Right off the bat, in the intro to the first song, Perth, I hear something that I occasionally use in improvisations and solos, which is beat frequencies created by very close intervals. A beat frequency is an auditory phenomenon caused when two sounds played simultaneously are close enough in frequency that the difference between their two frequencies can be heard as a third, lower pitch. as the two frequencies get close together, the third frequency gets lower and lower until you can hear the individual waves or beats. Hence, beat frequency. The guitar part on Perth starts out with a pretty startling beat frequency as part of the backing riff. The next thing I'm noticing is that the vocals are either a high, wispy, sensitive falsetto, or else they're a low kind of soul baritone. Quite the shock the first time I got to Minnesota, Wisconsin. Another thing, the notion of an anchoring bass line and drum groove is all but non-existent on this album. Sometimes that seems a bit pretentious to me, but other times I thought it was innovative. Like on the song Hinnom, Texas, where they use the timing of the tremolo guitar effect as the song's pulse. And it isn't every day that you hear banjo, pedal steel, French horn, and soprano sax on the same tune. That was kind of interesting. And even though there's no timekeeping instrument other than arpeggiated guitar, the song Holocene does have these occasional added beats, resulting in periodic measures of 5/4. Beat frequencies aside, none of these songs seem to be going out of their way to call attention to themselves. They all seem to shuffle in, mumble a self-deprecating point or two, and then say, okay then, kind of meander off. That's how it strikes me, these first few spins anyway. Well, except that last song, Beth/Rest, which does all of those things, except it does so while sounding exactly like Peter Cetera era Chicago. Which is why I'm more than a bit puzzled at the fact that I seem to be spinning this album more than usual. Not quite sure what's happening to me. Gonna have to look into this. First, the news.
I tore your hair out just to climb back, darling.
And I actually really enjoyed it. It reminds me a lot of some of the stuff that my partner listens to, so maybe it's that, but...
It's the Pat Metheny problem. I've maintained for years that Pat Metheny is an excellent musician, but I always seem to like him best when he's performing on other people's projects. With Joni Mitchell on Shadows and Light, with Ornette Coleman on Song X, with John Scofield on I Can See Your House From Here. The main issue I have with Pat Metheny's solo work is that it's all just too pleasant. I was taught from a very early age to seek intensity in music, even quiet intensity when you can. I was taught to expect that music should hit you like, and then leave you like, pleasant? Pleasant's for supermarkets, elevators, and Lord's Welk. Pleasant was evidence of lack of commitment. Pleasant was safe, and yet here I am, listening to Bon Iver with all these years of conditioned reflexes telling me how pleasant this music is. And to my horror, I find myself asking, is that so bad? And let me tell you folks, nothing, not my 30th, my 40th, or my 50th birthday, not having a child in college, not even knowing that the date of my birth is closer to the publication of The Great Gatsby than it is to today. Nothing has made me feel older. And there I was, absorbing this Bon Iver music and kind of getting into the vibe with the pleasantness. Looking forward to digging into the lyric content to complete the picture. Wait, what? What? Is this like a bad translation? What is this? Maybe I'm just dumb. This is not a place not yet awake I'm raised of make. Had the marvel moved, the proof be kneeled finds glowing. Honey in the hail could fill the pails of loving less with vain. That's just odd, but there is some rather beautiful passages in here. Smoke on Sundays when you're drunk and dressed, out with hollows where the swallows nest. So it's storming on the lake. Little waves our bodies break. So after a week with Bon Iver, here's where I am. I'm starting to like this music a little, despite the fact that there's almost nothing to it. And I'm struggling with what that might say about me. I'm intrigued enough with the lyrics that I might be willing to try and put in the effort to find out what the hell they're trying to say. And no matter which side I fall on, pro or against, the result will either be poser or hipster. And I don't know that I want to be either. But maybe that was never an option.
Overall, it was pretty solid. I think it's by far my favorite album that I've listened to so far.
When you're filling out your only form, can you tell it's just ceremony? Now you've added up to what you're from. Build your tether rein out from your fragments. Break the sailor's table on your sacrum. For the love comes burning young from the liver, sweating through your tongue.